Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Green Room for DisrupTV, where we kick off and introduce our guests. But I'm here with my amazing co-host, founder, Vala Afshar, and of course, our great producer, Elle, which you all know, and of course, our guests. So let's introduce our guests real quickly. We're in reverse order. Where are you coming in from? And a little snippet of what we're talking about today. Ruchika, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ruchika T. Malhotra. I'm the author of 3 books, including the newly released Uncompete, Rejecting Competition to Unlock Success. So as you can imagine, we'll be talking about, we'll be talking about my book on undoing competition.
Sweet. And of course, we're also joined by Scott Hutcheson. Tell us a little bit more. Where are you coming in from? What are we talking about?
Hey, I am joining you from the campus of Purdue University in West Lafayette, Indiana. Whereas last night, our men's basketball team went 3-0, defeating Alabama on the road. So it's a good start to the season. And I will also be talking about a book. I'm a professor and an author. And my latest book, there you go, Biohacking Leadership.
Very cool. Well, not at the 811 Modern Bistro or Triple X Family Restaurant. You'll catch it on campus.
Yeah.
All Purdue. And we got Ed. Where are we coming from? What are we talking about?
I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina, and I'm a reformed serial entrepreneur. I do a lot of advisory and board work for startup companies, all AI, or AI applications, I should say. I'm a professor of the practice with NC State University. I'm going to talk about 2 things today. I'm going to talk a little bit about what makes AI startups different and why they're so difficult to fund now and where it's going, in my opinion. And I'm also going to talk about a little bit about the future of work, because I've been I'm advising a company that's working in the multi-agentic corporation space. And like the other 2 speakers, I do have a forthcoming book, and I'm probably going to mention it. It's actually a novel called Probability of Doom.
Ooh, look at that.
AI techno thriller.
All right.
Out in about less than a month.
I'm looking forward to reading this. This is awesome.
Follow me on LinkedIn if you want to see when it's coming out, because I post about it every other day.
Well, this is great. We're in the green room. We'll now kick it off. And let's give it to Elle for the count. And of course, we'll go 17 minutes a segment or more, and you'll see how we interact. So all yours, Elle. Kick it off. We'll do the count.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining us on DisrupTV. My name is Vala Afshar. I'm the Chief Evangelist at Salesforce and your co-host for the next hour. We welcome you to follow us on X at DisrupTV Show. Send Ray, myself, our distinguished guest, your questions live, and we'll do our best to answer them. It's my pleasure to introduce my co-host, Ray Wang. He's the CEO and founder of Constellation Research. He's the best-selling author of Everybody Wants to Rule the World. I see Ray on TV every day, almost every day, Bloomberg, CNBC, Fox Business. He's one of the top futurists to follow on X at RWANG0. Welcome, Mr. Wang, to DisrupTV.
Hey, thanks a lot. We're with Vala Afshar, and as you mentioned, he's the Chief Digital Evangelist for Salesforce. He's also the author of multiple books, including Autonomous and, of course, Boundless. Autonomous, of course, is one you got to read, especially for this era. It's it's definitely a new book about what's happening next after the AI revolution and in the AI revolution. And of course, if you've seen Boundless, this is a book for unlimited business success and a #1 seller on Amazon. But I keep these 2 books with me all the time. But it's not about that. If you're an executive around the world, you've been paying attention to every one of Vala's inspirational and innovative tweets. And of course, if he's not leading or speaking at events around the world, you can catch his insightful analysis on ZDNet and of course on business broadcast on Bloomberg and of course ABC and other outlets. So it's not about us. It's about our amazing guests. And of course, we've got a BT 150 alum and of course, someone who's going to share something interesting with us. Who do we have to kick it off today?
We have a multi-author who's going to have a new novel out. This is breaking news, new novel next month. Hopefully we'll get to talk about that. Ed Addison's professor of practice at North Carolina State University in the field of industrial and systems engineering. Ed is an experienced entrepreneur educator who teaches courses in artificial intelligence, entrepreneurship, and product management. Is also the chairman of the Cloud Pharmaceuticals. Ed teaches courses in areas like artificial intelligence, entrepreneurship, product management, and has been affiliated with the university since 2011. Ed has founded and led multiple AI companies and holds 3 U.S. patents in AI. He's currently the chairman of the Cloud Pharmaceuticals, a company that uses AI for drug discovery. Ed has also served as an adjunct professor at other universities, including Johns Hopkins University. Hey, Ray, you know about this. And University of San Diego. It has been recognized as a leader in the AI field, having been named to the AI 150 list of global leaders shaping the future of AI. Welcome, Ed, to DisrupTV.
Thank you. And so
congratulations on the new novel.
Oh, yeah. Well, it hasn't hit the press yet, but it will before the end of the month.
That's awesome.
That's so awesome. Good. You know, Ed, you're talking about one of the most important areas that we always follow, which is really the startup ecosystem and what makes startups successful. And I mean, if we see what's happening in the marketplace, it is unlike another era as we've gone from the internet age to the AI age. You talk about this in a way, trying to understand what happens, understanding the movement. So let's talk about the first part, the startup moment, the startup movement that's in place. What is happening? Because these aren't startups the way we've seen startups in the past, on the way they take funding, on the way they're funding, on the way they look at labor, on the way they actually get to market and go to market. And you explore all those areas. So let's start up with the startup moment.
Yeah, I mean, years ago, it used to be all about the product in Silicon Valley, right? You had a product. That was the first thing you got looked at. Then it became the platform, but I think now we're looking at intelligence. So we're dealing with products that are platforms and that are delivering intelligence. So you have an added dimension. It used to also be that capital came in 3 forms, you know, human capital, intellectual capital, and financial capital. But now you have what I would call data capital. Data is, you know, the first question an investor asks if you're an AI company is what data are you using? Where'd you get it? Why is it unique? And how does nobody else have it? So those are barriers to getting funded. But one of the things that I view as the biggest barrier to getting funded is there's just been an absolute tsunami of startup companies. Every university is trying to pump out startup companies. The younger generation has been told by us, the older generation, that you can do anything you want, and they drank the Kool-Aid. And so now to them, when I started my first company, you know, I was considered to be kind of crazy because I left a big corporation to start a company. But nowadays you're nobody unless you start a company. Well, anyhow, that's led to 10 times as many companies out there, and there's only about twice as much funding. So you know, depending on the era that you look over. So the number of companies clamoring for funding is just the ratio is just much higher than it used to be. Further, I'm hearing from venture capitalists that they don't like reading all those business plans and looking at all those raw startups. They would rather create a startup with people that they know. So this new concept called the venture studio has come out. A venture studio is kind of a loose term for a group of experienced entrepreneurs who are company builders that create companies and install management in them. And I've been told by venture capitalists that they have 35% chance of success, whereas a neophyte entrepreneur with his AI company has less than 10% chance.
Yep.
Wow. More than 3.5 the success ratio. You've talked about this isn't about technology. This is about imagination. It's about timing. It's about the courage to lead transformation. So for those who are looking to build and invest and partner or reimagine what a company can be, the frontier is here and the time is now. And just to recap what you mentioned in terms of what makes AI startups unique, there's a shift from product to platform to intelligence. Data is the most important capital. And you got to go from deterministic pipelines to adaptive agents. Sticking to the agent theme, because you have talked about opportunities across industries, and you have experience in healthcare, obviously, education, enterprise software, manufacturing, and so on and so forth. When it comes to enterprise software, you talk about multi-agents, work orchestration, and the rise of an AI-first company. Can you break that down for our audience? What is an AI-first company, and what is multi-orchestration of agents all about?
Okay, so these are two different things. AI-first company is a company that's built upon AI. Typically, you're looking at an AI product, whereas a non-AI first company is using AI to make their product better.
Okay.
Both are valid and both are important. I like to think of the startup world as analogous to a tree. There's the trunk, the branches, the twigs, and the leaves.
Yep.
And if your company is a leaf on the tree, your odds of getting venture capital are pretty low because they want to fund the trunks and the branches. So the trunks are kind of the open AIs of the world and the Anthropics, and the branches are big startup companies that have billion-dollar potential. The twigs maybe have $100 million potential, but the leaves have $10 million potential. So they're better off left as lifestyle companies. You can make money in AI without venture capital. Not every company needs venture capital. The best kind of capital is customers paying for what you got, or the dogs eating the dog food, so to speak.
Now, trunk aside, how do you tell whether it's a leaf or a twig or a branch?
Well, a leaf is of a niche application, but it happens to use AI.
Okay.
A trunk is a foundational model that's going to cut across industries.
Sure.
You also asked about multi-agentic corporation, and my view there is, think of a company today that maybe has 100,000 employees and is operating profitably and is stable in its industry.
Sure.
That same company, 5 to 10 years from now, may only have 25 or 30,000 employees and may have 1 or 2 million agents, and it might have 5 million humanoid robots doing motion-based tasks.
Oh, yeah.
So that is a multi-agentic corporation, because people, robots, and agents, AI agents, are all agents, so to speak, and other kinds of AI can be agents. So the question is going to come up, how do you manage a corporation like that? It's not the way you manage a corporation of 100,000 people. You can't do it with a hierarchical management strategy. You got to answer questions about how much autonomy the AI gets, what kind of security you need, how you integrate with ERP, project management, workflow, HR. Does an AI robot have an email address, for example? Is it considered an entity that is the equivalent of a person, or is it all Theory X management subordinated to some person? These are questions that aren't answered today. These are questions that are going to have to be answered as this evolves, because most corporations today that are using AI agents are experimenting with them. They haven't made them mainstream yet, but we're on the cusp of that. That's going to happen over the next couple of years.
So by 2030, the definition of a hybrid workforce is no longer about location. It's about humans and AI agents creating value for various
That's right. And you could even have a corporation that has no employees at all.
Yeah, we're seeing that. We have a group we call AI Exponentials, and they're doing 80 to 90% digital labor. We saw a company, and I think you might have met him at our AI forum in DC. He basically beat out a competitor who bid 140 people over 12 months. He delivered the job with 10 people, 6 months. Actually, he delivered in 3 months instead of 6 months, and they vibe coded the front end in 1 day. Yeah. I mean, that's the scale, right? And so what does this mean for funding for startups now, Ed? I mean, do startups even need funding when we see product-led growth go to 50 to 100 million?
They need less funding if they have those kind of resources. And
where does the VC venture is completely turned upside down now?
The venture capital model is going to have to change too. The 2 and 20 model, I think, is for early stage ventures. 10 years isn't enough. There's a little bit of greed in that model, and I think people are discovering that. They're looking at alternatives for early stage investment. This is going to evolve as well.
we see LPs actually demanding 5 years returns instead of 7 and 10 now. So this is going to be an interesting.
That's going to make the problem get worse.
So do you advise startups when you think about this, right? And you think about what's happening with this AI revolution, what changes? What are some things founders should think about when they're trying to deliver real world impact? Or when you think about the call to build, what's different about this?
Well, the same basics are always there. You have to know who your customer is. There's so many young people who don't know who their customer is. And you have to know what value you're delivering to that customer. You have to deliver that value. You know, thinking up something in the shower or in the lab and thinking that you're, you know, the next great thing might be a product that nobody wants. And so, you know, it still goes back to business basics, but it's delivering them more efficiently. You can do it without the staff that you used to have.
Yep.
I think we're going to face a time over the next 5 to 10 years where corporate profits go up dramatically. We might have an employment issue. There's arguments both ways on that. But corporate profits are going to go up dramatically because of the use of these agents, which also means that government revenue is going to go up dramatically. I think our politicians in DC have no idea how much their revenue is going to increase in the next 5 to 10 years. And they talk about the debt crisis and solving it. It might just solve itself. Now that might be looking too far beyond, and politicians might ruin it. But we're going to have.
They already spent the money. What do you mean? They already spent it.
Business managers don't like to talk about, like universal basic income.
Right.
And I'm a right-leaning moderate, so I don't like entitlement programs, but I don't see any way around it when we start to widen the middle class.
So when we go from here to the Star Trek economy, you believe there's a UBI component from here to the Star Trek economy?
No,
there has to be a solution to the employment problem, not just the employment problem, but the middle class is splitting into 2 classes. It's splitting into the high middle class and the low middle class, and the gap is widening.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And you know, I've seen people go to college and get degrees in things like retail and can't get a job.
Right.
And they can't pay their student loans back. And then anybody who knows how to code AI right now gets snapped up. However, I do see that people without work experience aren't getting snapped up as fast as they used to. Right. You know, companies like, you know, I guess OpenAI and similar are hiring senior people rather than junior people. So anyhow, the multi-agentic corporation has kind of led to this novel called Probability of Doom that's coming out. It's about a guy who was the head of the humanoid robot department of a company that supplied them. And he gets fired because of a personal issue, gets disgruntled, and reprograms all the robots to do bad things. And it goes out of control. So it's an exciting novel, and it's not one that's to introduce doom to AI. It's quite the opposite. It's supposed to, for an AI person, if they read the book, it's supposed to identify all the things that can go wrong that we need to take care of right now so they don't.
Ed, is it a happy ending book, or we got to read it just to find it? We got to find out.
Well, it's probably a good ending, but it leaves a foot in the door to have a second.
He's ready for a sequel.
This is a Netflix movie in the making.
It's a little bit like Terminator rewritten for AI.
The premise is quite interesting. Hopefully businesses have enough.
My daughter and my grandkids helped me write this thing. I didn't do it all myself, so it has
no GPT involved. It was human labor. It was 100% human labor.
It
wasn't 100% human labor. We actually used the tools to make our writing better. But we concocted the story. It didn't concoct.
Human origin, GPT edited and delivered automated.
GPT and Grammarly and all those tools, everything was used to make sure that, because we're lay people, you know, but we had a story.
Yeah. I love the fact you're using digital natives like your granddaughter to help ground the story based on
my grandkids play video games, so they know the experience they feel that I've never felt.
Exactly.
So that was
a gamer, though. If I had to guess, I would say you have some gaming experience.
Yeah, and so this is going out on Amazon KDP at first, and then I'm going to shop it for a larger publisher.
Excellent.
I didn't want to wait for the larger publisher now because I thought they'd take 1.5 years to get the book out the door, and it might be obsolete.
Yeah, a good year.
So I put a foot in the door for a sequel, and I'll shop it for a
Excellent.
bigger
Excellent.
publisher later. But
Well,
it was done as a fun project by family members. We didn't do it to make money.
Ed,
But
when
it
you're ready,
turned out to be really a lot of fun.
Ed, when you're ready to connect with a publisher, I can help. So
I would appreciate that. You know, I want to get the book in print first, so that instead of sending some manuscript to a publisher with an agent, I can actually show them the book and say, hey, look, we can do another one of these.
Well, I'm going to say not bad for a Hokey Bird, Blue Jay, Blue Devil. Not bad. Man. Not bad.
Oh, Hokey Bird, Blue Jay, Blue Devil. I also went to MIT.
All right.
Oh,
my
there you go.
neighborhood. Nice.
Hokey undergraduate, and I did my AI at MIT and my MBA at Duke.
We'll give you the beaver too. We'll give you Tim.
Yeah. That's awesome. Great pedigree. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Ed, always a delight.
Thank you for having me.
Always a delight. Happy to have you in the community. Save the date, March 19th. It's our AI forum in.
I will be there.
If
I
you're
had such
there,
a
we
good
would love
time
to have you.
when I'm coming back.
I will connect with you. I may have reasons to go to a rally, hopefully, in a few more weeks. So
you do come on, we'll have a beer.
Nice.
Well, we're going to Empire, Second Empire. We're gonna live it up.
And do that. I'll take you to a new great place called Epic Chop House.
Ooh,
The word
Brand
chop
new one.
house automatically means it's good.
You saw Vala and I were like, yeah.
Eat the Angus
Had us
pork.
at Chop House. Yeah, that's
Ed
good.
Addison,
pork
professor of the
quality.
practice at North Carolina State, and of course an AI 150 exec, part of the Constellation Executive Network. Thank you so much, man. We'll catch you next
Ed.
time, and we're looking forward to reading your new books. So
Congrats
Great.
on the
Thank
new
you.
book. Thank you. That's, by the way, advice to any guests that are on our show. You have us at hello when you have Chop House.
we're setting a high bar here.
Yeah. No. We love to eat. Ray's a vegetarian. I'm not. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. Our next guest, Dr. Scott Hutcheson, PhD, author of Biohacking Leadership, leveraging the biology of behavior to maximize your impact. This book just came out in July, brand new book. Scott is a biosocial scientist and is senior lecturer at Purdue University. He's joining us from Purdue today. His teaching, research, and professional practice focus on leadership, team, and organizational performance from a biology of behavior framework. The biosocial science explores the dynamic interplay between biological systems and social behaviors and how they shape leadership, teams, and organizational performance. For over 30 years, Scott has been helping current and future leaders design, manage, and strategically transform organizations and ecosystems to make them more adaptive, super important. We're in an age of digital Darwinism, super important, adaptive, innovative, and competitive. Scott has been engaged by over 500,000 organizations from industry, from higher education to public nonprofit sector, and across U.S. and internationally. Scott designs and delivers courses and learning experiences that have global reach. He's taught thousands of leaders for over 140 countries. His last book was #1 Amazon new release bestseller, Strategic Doing, 10 Skills for Agile Leadership, which was released by my publisher as well, Wiley, in 2019. Welcome, Scott, to DisrupTV.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Congrats on the new book. Great
Thank
cover.
you.
Great cover. This is great.
That's always fun to work with those designers. You get choices, and I like that one.
I like the color optionality here. It's a great cover.
Fun.
Well, hey, I really love the fact that you went to the smartest AI to learn about these leadership signals, which is the human being. We run at 30 watts. We're super efficient. We're super flexible. We're decentralized robots at best, right? And you went to nature to figure out these biometric signals, these 18 biometric signals and 3 channels that really drive the concept of leadership. And I just went through the literature. I don't think anyone has ever done this before. It's like a first. And so you're doing intersectionality between bio, leadership, and management. And then you jump in here to talk about ecosystems at the same time. And so there used to be this amazing conference that would take 3 subjects and bring them and mash them together. I forgot the name of this conference. It was in Minneapolis, and it was an amazing event. And you've done this in the book. So let's talk about leadership, right? You say it's not personality, it's biology. Take it from here.
Yeah, so let me take you back to when my life took an unexpected detour. This would have been about 1987. I just graduated with an undergraduate degree in theater, of all things, and I was a directing major, right? So I had started directing community theater productions here and there. I'd go somewhere and get a show up and running, and rent a room from somebody. I was a starving artist, and in one production, remember it's community theater, so everyone's an amateur. In one production, there was an engineer from a nearby research lab. And as we got to know one another, we started talking about the collaborative nature of theater. And he said, I think the theater is the most collaborative of all the arts. And back where I work, we're being asked to collaborate in kind of a new way. We're bringing people of different disciplines together to work on grand challenges. That's a very different kind of task than what we used to do, just like design a technical solution for a client, right? So I said, would you be interested in designing some leadership training, kind of drawing on some of the lessons of theater? I would love to say that I caught the bug then, but really it was a mercenary decision because I asked, does this pay? He said, yeah, we can shake loose some dollars. And I said, let's do it. So what we did was adapt the simple rules of improv that many have heard of. You say yes and make your partner look good and all that, and adapted that for the workplace. Because in retrospect, what I was recognizing back then is that you manage complexity with a set of simple rules. And that's what improv is. When everyone is obeying and understands the same simple rules, Saturday Night Live and make the whole world laugh, right? So that's basically what I did in that first experience there. But it really set me onto a track that I've been on ever since. So ever since then, I've been working in these very engineering, technology, science-centric kinds of organizations, working with often emerging leaders, right? You've been an individual contributor, but someone's tapped you on the shoulder, or through your own ambition, you say, I want to advance in this organization, and I want to now manage a group of individual contributors. And that requires showing up differently, right? Okay. So that was kind of the beginnings of this framework. And it was in the early days, we talked about executive presence, and you still see that term. I never really liked that term because it seemed to be more about personality, more about natural charisma. And it was not very evidence-based. When you go into literature, there's not been much about executive presence. So what I wanted to do is say, it's all about, it is about human behavior. When we interact with leaders, there's something about the behavioral signals that they send that draw us in. We want to connect with them, right? And then we feel like, oh, they have something to offer me, expertise or resources or what have you. And then a leader can help bring people together to create shared value. So those are all very biological processes. These biological signals that when others receive them, it does something biologically to them. Yeah, they get a dose of oxytocin when all of a sudden they feel like, oh, I'd like to spend more time with you, Vala.
Yeah, I mean, it gets you excited.
Yeah, that's it. Ray, like, man, you are a really smart guy. There's a dopamine reception that.
Oh, it totally does. It wakes me up.
Yeah, that's right. Like, man, I'm alert and I'm ready to learn from you. So that was kind of the idea. How do we look at leadership as behavior? Leadership is behavioral, and behavior is biological. And gosh darn it, biology can be hacked, right? We can understand it. We can, and we can experiment with what signals prompt the right sort of outcomes that I'm hoping for.
I love that. So biohacking leadership. Now, in part of this book, also you write about biohacking connections.
Yeah.
And you just talked about, those external signals we emit. Based on our internal desire to connect with interesting people. One of the reasons I'm with Ray for the last 10 years, because he expands my mind. So the signals he sends and our connection is based on the quality of thoughts that he projects to the world, and I tend to find them very useful. Biohacking connections. You talk about 6 actions leaders can take. Can you share some of those actions for our audience? How do we biohack connections?
Yeah. So what we did in our research, and I had some graduate students help me with this, is we tried to identify what are the behaviors in others that when we see them, we sort them into a category of, oh, they seem to have potential as a leader, or I'm interested in I'm interested in whether it's I'm interested in pulling the lever for them in the election booth, or I'm interested in figuring out how I can get on their team because, gosh, I just love the way they can prompt a team to full performance. So there's lots of behaviors that we associate with leadership, but what we wanted to do is boil it down to kind of this minimally viable set of behavioral signals.
I like that. I like
that. Right? So we identified 18 of them. And earlier you talked about they cluster into these 3 biodynamic channels. And the first one is warmth. And that's where connection comes in. So we perceive someone as warm, means, they're kind, they're thoughtful, they often have me in mind, not just themselves. It's not a complete transactional kind of relationship. So that's where it starts. Now, you can't just have warmth. You also have to have that competence and the gravitas. But in warmth, it was simple things like, you know what? They listen really well, right? They are other-oriented in their conversation. They are approachable and relatable. So we identified 6 of these. Those are 3 of them, right? And those are observable and measurable, and they're developmental as well. We can learn to do things. We can learn to be a better listener, or maybe we are a better listener. We are a pretty good listener, but we're not sending signals that we're a very good listener. We might be taking it all in, but the other person doesn't see it. So how do we consistently send those signals of warmth so that at a bare minimum, those that we hope to lead will say, yeah, I feel safe connecting with you, and I'd like to spend more time with you. And that's really where it all starts.
I love other-oriented. I really, that's such a super powerful mindset and muscle and habit to develop. Just be interested in others. And instead of self-promoting or flexing or dunking or whatever it is, more of an outward in approach. And one of the reasons, I don't know why I keep talking about Ray, but Ray's resting face is smiling, like he's happy. They're visual cues that it's safe to approach him, even though he's like a celebrity. So I love other oriented. I'm going to borrow that if you don't mind.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Ray.
So let's talk about the biohacking gravitas. That was one of my favorite chapters. And it's an interesting thing how you can project gravitas. And I didn't know that was possible. Honestly, there should be like a whole workshop. You should have like a weekend retreat.
You should teach this in school. I want all my kids to have some ability to enhance their gravitas. And the founder of my company, his personality fills every room he walks into. And I'm like, that's a skill I want to develop. So anyway,
Mark is amazing at that. Mark is amazing at that.
I do teach it in my Purdue University classrooms and in professional development workshops all over the world. So hit me up.
I might.
All right,
put me in the game. Put
me in, coach. Let's talk about gravitas. So this one needs a little bit of an explanation because Sir Isaac Newton kind of screwed it up for us. So when he said, I discovered gravity, we lost the classical definition from the Greeks. Because before it was a rule of physics, it was a word to describe people. But when we started using it for physics, we think of it as seriousness, weightiness, groundedness, and that is part of it. But we lost the other half of the definition. And my favorite ancient definition is a poetic one. It is feet firmly planted on the ground, but with angels' wings ready to take flight.
Yeah.
So it's a pull, but it's not too much of a pull. So I really like the planetary definition or the metaphor of gravitas. We've got one moon. Other planets might have more than one, but that was a celestial body that made its way into our orbit, and we through our gravity, helped it to begin orbiting us, right? So a leader with gravitas has the ability to bring people together to create shared value. So that's my definition of gravitas.
That is the best definition I've ever heard. And you're right. We do take seriously the word gravity. Sometimes when I use gravity to explain to people the importance of emerging technology and the adoption curve, I'll go to Innovator's Dilemma, a book by late Professor Clay Christensen, where he at one point said, you may hate gravity, but gravity doesn't care. And I will tell audiences, like, when it comes to artificial intelligence, or when it comes to, like, get on board. This is happening. but it is a less inspiring, a little more intense use of the word gravity. We do have lots of young founders, newly appointed CEOs that watch the show. Any layups in terms of any advice that you can share with our audience in terms of enhancing your gravitas? Of course, read your book. Of course. My most important advice. But is there one or two things that can, go to the gym, put in the reps where they can improve their gravitas?
Yeah. So remember, there's 6 biomarkers, if you will, or behaviorals under gravitas. A couple of those, for example, one is you can effectively deliver a message.
Yes.
Right. And so let's kind of start there. So one of the things that we do in both my classrooms and my professional development sessions is we talk about the neuroscience of storytelling. And that's actually a chapter in the book. I believe it's chapter 7, the neuroscience of storytelling. We know that we are biologically attuned to listen to stories, and there are specific kind of story structures, narrative structures that really get our mind going. And so what we do is we help leaders use these sort of narrative structures, either kind of in their hip pocket when they're telling a story on the fly, or when it's a bit more of a planned stand.
Oh, might have lost the signal here. So
okay.
Oh no, we're back.
We're back.
Right. So being a great storyteller, whether it is inspiring your team or whether it's breaking, tough news, how do you lean into the neuroscience of that? What is happening, and how can you prompt those neurochemicals? How can you bring down cortisol if it's a time of stress? Well, you do that by sending those signals of warmth that is going to increase oxytocin, because when oxytocin goes up, cortisol goes down.
Yep.
Yeah. So how do you think of your behavioral signals, even as a storyteller, that can create these impacts on your team, your organization, your customers, and your investors?
When Vala was giving his keynote at our conference, you could see the oxytocin going up everywhere. People are like,
"Oh, yeah,
look at super excited."
Yeah,
you can feel it, can't you?
I appreciate that. Well, it was Steve Jobs who said the most powerful person in business is a storyteller. So right. I absolutely agree that great stories can create movements.
Absolutely.
It's funny when I look at my founder present, stories usually are about someone else. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. I see great storytelling. It's almost like a shift to a narrative. It's open-ended. It's inclusive. You're listening to it. And you feel like you can be part of it.
Right.
You can help shape the movement. So it's we've had a number of great leaders, including yourself, that have been on the show, reminding us that especially in a time of converged uncertainty, climate, politics, tariffs, government, new technology. Our previous guest told us in 5 years, companies might shrink, and we're the last generation of business leaders that are going to manage just humans. Right. We'll be managing smart software. We need great storytellers because, frankly, it's exciting and scary. It's exciting and scary. Right. And as a technologist, I'm equally excited and scared about what the near future may look like.
There's so much to learn from you, Scott. But before you're not barbecuing in your own backyard, South Street Smokehouse or Revolution Barbecue? Where do we go?
Well, South Street Smokehouse is no more. So,
I know.
Revolution Barbecue is pretty good. I know it's a chain, but I'm impressed with City Barbecue. They're based out of Ohio, but gosh, they do a good job.
Okay.
All right. When you're in Lafayette, Indiana, we'll know where to find Scott. Thank you so much for being here. I think this is a seminal book for folks to read about leadership. It's not your standard leadership book. This is one that really comes back to the biohacking that you really need to. Scott Hutcheson, Dr. Scott Hutcheson, author of Biohacking Leadership, leveraging the biology behavior to maximize your impact. And you can also check out his class at Purdue. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much. Cheers. This is like my fastest hour of the week. And, I know the World Series just ended. Yeah, I know the World Series just ended, and maybe a baseball analogy isn't good for a global podcast, but this is what we call the cleanup hitter spot, where a big smart person comes and hits a grand slam, brings it all home, and there's no pressure. Ruchika.
Well, I'm from Singapore. We don't watch baseball. We watch what you all call soccer over here.
Yes, I don't know. Where I was born, we call it football, so I still call it football. But I don't really understand why we changed the name. Which is author of Uncompete: Rejecting Competition to Unlock Success. This book just came out last week. So congratulations. Brand new book. Ruchika is author of this new book, Uncompete, Rejecting Competition. She's also founder of Candor, an inclusion strategy practice. Ruchika is former international business journalist and has recently appeared in publications including New York Times, Harvard Business Review, some publications you might be aware of, our audience might be aware of.
Never heard of them, man. Never heard
She's a keynote speaker on leadership, workplace culture, and the Uncompete framework. Our last book, Inclusion on Purpose, was MIT Press top-selling book of 2022 and called Transformative by Dr. Brené Brown. I think it was Dr. Brené Brown who said good stories are data with a soul. So that's high praise from Brené Brown. Welcome, Ruchika, to Disrupt TV.
Thank you so much. And I didn't say where I'm here from. As you heard, I am originally from Singapore, but I live out in dreary Seattle.
Seattle.
You traded hot humidity for wet, cold humidity? What do you mean?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if I did the right thing, but here I am 13 years
Well,
later.
there are no hawker stands, so we won't be talking about food. That's totally different.
And I have no idea about barbecue because my friends tell me, I moved from Atlanta before this, but my friends tell me Seattle's barbecue scene isn't good. So I don't want to start.
Seattle has amazing seafood, and you'll enjoy that.
We do.
But let's talk about competition, since we're talking about a book on Uncompete. And coming from Singapore, you don't know nothing about competition. There's none at all. People don't compete for every mile, every inch, every space. But what is this? Like, competition is something built into us? Is it something we learn? Is it something that's inherent to us? Is it our environment? So what are some of the myths around competition?
It's absolutely our environment, and it's absolutely conditioned, which was actually a big surprise for me. I've always sort of had a little bit of interest and, just wanted to check out, how does competition show up? What does it look like in the workplace? Really interested in leadership, are competitive leaders better leaders? So I've always been interested in this subject. And I personally always believed that competition is inborn, right? Like, we as a species, that's how we were, that's how we got from our hunter-gatherer days to where we are right now. And the more I looked at the research, and thankfully it aligned with what I was trying to say in this book, the more the research shows that actually we aren't hardwired biologically to compete. We are hardwired to compare with each other. So indeed, you'll look at the person next to you and you're like, are you part of my tribe or not? Like, are you prey or are you, should we collaborate here? But actually what's got us so far in history, and it's certainly at this time where I know we talked so much about AI, I learned so much from previous guests, but we really, we're radically good at collaborating with each other. And that is what has allowed us to get to where we are right now. And so when we think about building for the future of work, when we think about building for technology, I was very interested when I think it was Ed who talked about UBI and the universal basic income idea. I think we need to ask, like, what does it mean to create a society which is collaborative, that isn't leaving people behind? Because indeed, I think what all of us can agree is we are going to see this huge change in what the middle class looks like, what people can afford, what success looks like, what are the skills we need. So we really have to design making sure people don't get left behind, because that is what's got us to where we are right now.
I wanted to jump in here because you said something that was interesting about comparison versus compete. And I think I wanted just to drop just a little bit deeper in there, because you used the story of your father and your mother in the book. Hopefully they're okay with the comparison. Sorry. But it's a very interesting tale about those two things. So just go there a little bit more, and then, sorry, Vala, I just felt that was
great.
Yeah. So great question. Growing up in Singapore, you're very much taught, it's in our national discussions, it's in the national narrative. What got us from, not my words, but the words of literally how we talk about our country as I was growing up, is certainly, very much by the 90s, this was the narrative was we went from third world to first world in a matter of generations. Yeah. Because of our ability to compete, our ability to always be working. People are really interested in the book. I write about how Singapore coined the term FOMO before Patrick McGinnis did it at Harvard Business. Because
now we know who the reality of FOMO was.
We have a word for it, kiasu, and it literally means you cannot miss out. And it's actually a positive thing, right? We might joke oh, you're so kiasu, but really what it means is you're so good at making sure that you got there first. So that's sort of our national identity, along with the wonderful food, along with, how you're kiasu about making sure you hover over people as they're finishing at the hawker center so that you get there.
That's the culture. Yeah. How else are you going to get a seat in a hawker stand? Come on.
It is. And so I've always been fascinated by it, but seeing two very different approaches. My father, very, very capitalistic, very much what matters most is beating out others. And then, learning from my mother that actually abundance, collaboration, building in community is what makes you successful. She's one of the first Indian female real estate developers in Singapore, which is a very, very hard thing to do for anyone who has been to Singapore. Real estate is a very, very tough business to be in. And she's always had that approach, you lead and you build with other people. You don't elbow others out of the way.
I love that. It's good to be ambitious, but not at the expense of others. In preparation for the show and your appearance, I was trying to think about my own journey in life and where I've had an uncompete mindset for a sustained amount of time. Not situational, but horizontal journey of uncompete. And this show came to my mind. Now, of course, I'm smart enough to know I'm not going to compete with Batman and Robin. Ray is Batman, Elle is Robin. I'm simply the butler here.
Very important.
Sometimes you choose not to compete because it's just not a fair competition. But we've been doing this for 10 years, and I've never, ever felt competition with Ray. It's just been an opportunity to co-create value. And then, of course, have extraordinary people like yourself come and help expand our minds. So what does it mean to uncompete? What's your definition? So for me, the analogy was I've spent every Friday for 10 years uncompeting with two extraordinary people to put the show together. But your definition would be really helpful for us.
Yeah, it's literally rejecting the idea that there's only room for one and that you have to elbow another person. Your win is someone else's loss.
So and abundance mindset is what you're talking about here.
Totally. But it's also, if you look at the definition of competition in the dictionary, it means two or more parties vying for the same thing, but only one party wins. That's what the definition of competition is, which is why, as I peel back in the book, even this idea of being in competition with yourself, often people don't stop and think but what am I giving up? Which part of myself am I giving up when I say that? Not saying motivation isn't a good thing, by the way. I write about how, to speak of comparison, very human nature. But there is very, very positive aspects of even something like envy, right? We can use envy to motivate us to do better. What unfortunately happens, and I think we're seeing this especially among young people. I teach, I've taught in the past at Seattle University and the University of Washington. I advise a graduate program at the UW right now. And I really am concerned about how young people the graduate program has, usually folks are between their mid to late 20s all the way till their 50s and 60s. But especially the 20s and 30s, folks are really struggling with this idea of like, how do I compare based on social media? How do I compare based on, how my colleagues and my friends are doing? And I think we really need to ask ourselves, like, what are we losing when we constantly feel like we're in competition with each other?
Can I ask a meta question? Can you compare and still uncompete at the same time? It sounds like they're mutually exclusive. Is that true?
No, you can. You can absolutely do that. Because if you look at comparison, and again, if you look at the data around envy, there's broadly, there are two types of envy. And I really love talking about this.
I want to be a professor of envy. That sounds like pretty cool.
So there's Batman, Robin, and not the butler, Professor Envy. It sounds like.
Yeah, I love that.
Alfred. We'll call Alfred Envy for now.
Yeah. I love it. But essentially, there are two types of envy, right? I am oversimplifying, but there is benign envy, which is that comparison where you look at someone else, you can see, Vala's a new book out, or your friend is, sort of speaking on stages. And the benign envy would be, hey, what is this telling me about what my highest goals are? Like, what are my ambitions in life? And let me figure out how to get there. Like, let me figure out like what I can learn from their journey, because I believe they worked hard to get there. That's benign envy. The other is malicious envy, right? And that, I think, comes from this competition. Either you beat yourself down, or you sabotage or try and sabotage the other person, right? Start rumors, gossip, maybe comment on their like LinkedIn, something like, oh, like, I know you cheated to get there. And like, it essentially gets us into this real cycle of, it's basically a cycle, spiral downwards, if you ask me.
So you have 8. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Valley.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Ray.
I was going to say, you have 8 things that you talk about in the book: reset the mindset, reframe comparison, choose joy, create an abundant community, build collective power, liberate our bodies, redefine success on our terms, and seek peace. Yeah. What's the hardest for most people?
Oh, redefine success. Well, liberate our bodies. Like, again, coming from Singapore, this idea that rest and success are basically, that's where, like, I learned, are mutually totally exclusive. Like, you either are constantly working and therefore you be successful, or you rest and you're lazy and you're nobody. And I know that those narratives are very, very much in our society today, especially when we think about leadership. But again, in this AI world, if we think about what AI disruption looks like, there's a real opportunity here to build for that to not be the case, right? For us to really be able to automate and really integrate with AI to help us, do the storytelling, the higher thinking, and give us time for rest. But we got to be very intentional about that. And then, but for me personally, the other chapter that was very hard was the redefine success, because again, I've been taught like all that matters is money and titles. And, I went to these elite universities and I've lived in places around the world. I've interviewed so many Fortune, 500 CEOs and C-level folks. And what you realize is that all of us struggle with this definition of like, or struggle with this idea of like, what does success really mean to me? And so many people, it's like that hedonic treadmill. You achieve something, you get it, you're like, oh, once I get that, like, I'm done, I'm ready to retire, or I'm ready to like, but no, the goalpost is moving.
Yeah, it's hard because
we just wrote one book, Vala, and now we're doing 2, and the next thing's 3.
Yeah, no, I'm just well, like you and I are in, all of us. I mean, we're in tech, and the hustle culture in tech.
It's the hustle.
It's like you can from the whether it's the richest man on earth telling us, or the CEO of the most valuable company on earth telling us about grit and sleeping at the end of the manufacturing line, and it's difficult to escape this.
But can I ask you, without naming names, I think this is where just that pause between, right? Like that space between is really important. Yeah. I think more of us need to ask, like, is that our definition of success? Like, would we trade what we have right now for that? Maybe some of us would, right? But I think the default, like this idea of like, without thinking, we're like, yes. That's what I want this book to hopefully have more people stop for a moment and just be like, is that what I really want?
Right.
I
And I like the
think we don't
fact
know
that you
When
mentioned
we're younger, we
AI.
don't know that. So
I just like the fact that you had an optimistic point of view on how perhaps artificial intelligence can help us maybe be more peaceful and not have a zero-sum game mindset. I look at my work calendar and it's like I've got stuff on my calendar that I consider shitty work. Like I've been on the road for like 6 weeks, so I have so much expense reports I got to do, and I dread doing that. I've got good work, meaning work I'm doing that I'm actually getting paid to do. So good work. And there's incredible work that I want to do. Maybe it's working on my next keynote or connecting the dots so I can perhaps come up with another book or whatever, work that I think could be exceptional, helping, my stakeholders. If AI can just take the crappy work off my plate and do some of the good work, the stuff that I get paid for to do, and give me some more time to work on that exceptional work, I would be really happy. I think I could get into an uncompete state of mind more easily. So as an optimist like you, I'm hoping all this emerging technology just helps me get back some time and get out of that hustle culture that I think all of us, it's hard to avoid. It really is, because my customers, my clients, the people that I advise, they're all bought into that hustle culture. They're public companies, their shareholder value and their innovation roadmap and the competitive landscape is growing, and the velocity of innovation, speed and direction is unlike any time in our lifetime.
That's
so
right.
We need to read your book and get grounded, because it feels like more and more the CEOs that I'm working with, they're wartime CEOs. They're not peacetime CEOs anymore. No one's even talking about peacetime CEO, at least in my circles.
No.
And so, we really need to have a more balanced point of view in terms of how we're going to live a recommendable life. Sorry, that was just a big commentary. No question there. But
I appreciate it.
But your book definitely hits the mark. Go ahead, Ray.
Adding to that, Ruchika, is there a way that we can actually, are we all just going to have to just decide to uncompete? Is there, or
we
is
need
it
an uncompete conference, by the way?
Yeah, there should be a conference on uncompete.
I'm planting the seed right now. I'm like,
we got a few 100,000 that watch the show. Let's go. Let Ray and I know. We may sponsor an uncompete conference. I think we should all
be thrilled. Ray, the answer to that is it really comes from how we model our own leadership. And I think looking at so much of even research I've done, I've written about especially inclusion and gender equity for a long time. When we see leaders model collaboration, when we see literally like in our one-on-ones, in our talent conversations, in our hiring conversations, when we talk about the types of products we want to build, you have to explicitly say, what does collaboration look like? Give me examples of when you collaborated. I want actual, it's not just a beautiful word on the wall that you kind of pull out to impress someone and then you put it away, but you literally reward collaboration very deliberately. And I think it requires rewiring. It's not, it's definitely not the default at all.
Ruchika, it's been awesome. I think we've learned a lot here. I think a lot of leaders are going to be taking some time to think about how that's going to mean, what that means in their life. It's Ruchika T. Malhotra, author of Uncompete, Rejecting Competition to Unlock Success, a thinker 50 too. Look at that. We didn't even lead with that in the bio.
I had to cut her bio in half. We only have 20 minutes. I mean, she's
if we get on the show, it's so easy, Vala. Like our bios are like 2 seconds,
Yeah.
I love the video at the start. I was watching, and then I saw like Whitney Johnson, and I saw it was so fun.
A lot of your Thinkers 50 friends.
It's like you're all here on the video.
Can I just make a 1 second thing? For anyone who's an author, if you're ever looking for a gift, Frances Fry, out of nowhere,
love her,
sent me a puzzle of Uncompete. I'm actually trying to get it framed. So my 9-year-old and like my whole family, when I was traveling last week for the book, when I came back, they put together this puzzle. Frances sent it over, Liberty Puzzles, off the book cover. And now we're getting it framed. And I was just like, what an amazing gift. So
she's unbelievable. She's funny. She's smart. She's warm. Our previous guest talked about warmth. She has a gravitational pull about her where like 5 minutes knowing her, I was just like, and she's a neighbor, Harvard. I was like, I want to go have lunch with her. Like
Wow.
she's
And she probably had lunch with you too, you know.
awesome.
She
Awesome.
probably would. She
Oh yeah. Well, I hope so. You know,
when you stop traveling, Vala, when you're
Yes.
off,
We're gonna get
Yeah.
this in puzzle pieces.
yeah. Get out of here. Right?
you might.
My best publicist right here. This is really cool. This is why we uncompete. Part of uncompeting for me and Ray is celebrating others. The people that really want to see you win will
Yes.
help you win.
They will.
And
We've learned
and those are the people that I believe have the best position to be in that uncompete mindset. They are happy for you genuinely when you win.
That's
in fact,
right.
they go out of their way to help you win. And
That's
that's,
right.
we need more of those people in our lives. We really
The
do.
hardest part to uncompete is really trying to redefine what the TAM is or what the market size is.
You're right.
And once you understand how big the market size is, you realize you can't do it on your own. And I think
Abundance.
that was my revelation when I moved into that mindset. Because
Yes.
before that, I mean, I grew up in an Asian household too, like immigrant mindset. It's like
Yeah.
you're competing for every inch.
Totally.
I went to Johns Hopkins. You're competing for every freaking inch. Right?
Yeah.
That's a cutthroat school, right? I mean,
My
it's
mom
super
wants
cool.
me to go back to school and finish my doctorate.
Your
because
mom
she
and my
thinks-
mom should just hang
No,
out.
she thinks it's an
so we will be okay.
unfair. She says I have an unfair opportunity to win until I get my PhD, and I'm like, Mom, like, I know I have a short bio, but I've done some decent work in the last. Anyway, you know,
Your mom and my mom are built the same.
my mom still competes. I need to.
No, I get this all the time. I feel like wondering.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank
Thank you
you
for
so
being on the show.
much, Joel, so much.
Have a good one. We'll see you in the green room if you're there.
Must read. That was the fastest hour. We could have talked to all three guests for the entire show. But you know, these are busy folks, and even though we asked them originally to come with us and for 3 hours, they all said no. Let's do 1 hour. Ella's trying to get a 3-hour podcast going, and we haven't been able to do it.
Long form not happening, man. Not happening. Not on a Friday.
When you get best-selling authors and professors and CEOs, it's even getting 20 minutes at a time. It's amazing. Okay, next week's show, Martin Kine, one of my favorite colleagues and one of the smartest people in the world of marketing, Senior Vice President of Strategy at Salesforce, author of Agent Force, Harnessing the Agency of AI to Scale, Grow, and Lead Any Industry, will be on the show. He's one of the brightest people in the world of marketing, and he's super creative, and you'll learn more about his backstory when he's on the show next week. And then Ranjai Gulati, Thinkers 50, Harvard Business School professor, social scientist, and author of a new book, How to Be Bold. Ray and I need help. How to be bold. The surprising science of everyday courage. I think we're getting close to 75, 80 authors that we've
It's gonna be hard when we choose our books this year, Vala. I don't know.
But you know, last year was 2024, so we chose 24 books to coincide with the year. This year is 2025, so we're going to have 25 books.
Whew, thank God. We get one extra vote.
You know, but that's only, you know, that's less than 1 in 3 authors that have been on the show. So Ray and I will be debating, we'll be competing on which book of ours will make the list. And at the end, we'll have an uncompete final 25 that we will reveal with you sometime mid-December, I believe. And it's always a fun time to celebrate extraordinary best-selling authors that have been on the show. I think we feature more authors than any other podcast in the tech industry, and we'll continue to do that thanks to your recommendations. If it's Friday, it's DisrupTV. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.